Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Before I can walk in another's shoes, I must first remove my own. Let's say you're buying a new phone. The salesman asks, "What kind of smartphone are you looking for?" "Well, I'm looking for something that costs—" "I think I know what you'd like," he interrupts. "Everyone is getting this new one. Trust me." He rushes off and comes back with the sleekest, slimmest smartphone you've ever seen. "Just take a look at this baby," he says. "I mean, it's nice, but it's not what I need. I can't afford it. It's the hottest thing going right now. You gotta get it before it sells out." "No thanks. I don't have the money." "I promise you'll love it. Worth every penny. But listen, I've been selling phones for 10 years, and I'm telling you, this phone is worth it." After this experience, would you ever want to go to that store again? Definitely not. You can't trust people who give you solutions before they understand what your needs are. But did you know that we often do the same thing when we communicate? "Hey, Missy, you look kind of bummed. What's up?" "You wouldn't understand, Lily. You'd think it was stupid." "No, I wouldn't. Tell me what's going on. I'm all ears." "Oh, I don't know." "Come on, you can tell me." "Well, okay. Um, Things aren't the same between Tyrone and me anymore." "I told you not to get involved with him. I just knew this would happen." "Tyrone's not the problem." "Listen, Missy, if I were you, I'd just forget about him and move on." "But Lily, that's not how I feel." "Believe me, I know how you feel. I went through the same thing last year with Zach. Don't you remember? It practically ruined my entire year." "Just forget it, Lily." "Missy, I'm only trying to help. I really want to understand. Now go on. Tell me how you feel." It's our tendency to want to swoop out of the sky like Superman and solve everyone's problems before we even understand what the problem is. We simply don't listen. As the American Indian proverb goes, "Listen or thy tongue will make thee deaf." The key to communication and having power and influence with people can be summed up in one sentence: seek first to understand, then to be understood. In other words, listen first, talk second. This is habit 5, and it works. If you can learn this simple habit to see things from another's point of view before sharing your own, a whole new world of understanding will be open to you. The deepest needs of the human heart. Why is this habit the key to communication? It's because the deepest need of the human heart is to be understood. Everyone wants to be respected and valued for who they are, a unique, one-of-a-kind, never to be cloned, at least for now, individual. People won't expose their soft centers unless they feel genuine love and understanding. Once they feel it, however, they will tell you more than you may want to hear. The following story is about a girl with an eating disorder, shows the power of understanding. I was a professional anorexic by the time I met Julie, Pam, and Levon, my college roommates, my freshman year. I had spent my last 2 years of high school concentrating on exercising, dieting, and triumphing in every ounce I lost. At 18 years old and 5'8", I weighed in at a breezy 95 pounds, a tall pile of bones. I didn't have many friends. Constant deprivation had left me irritable, bitter, and so tired I couldn't carry on casual conversations. School social events were out of the question, too. I didn't feel like I had anything in common with any of the kids I knew. A handful of loyal friends really stuck it out with me and tried to help, but I tuned out their preachy lectures about my weight and chalked it up to jealousy. My parents bribed me with new wardrobes. They badgered me and demanded that I eat in front of them. When I wouldn't, they dragged me off to a series of doctors, therapists, and specialists. I was miserable and convinced my whole life was going to be that way. Then I moved away to attend college. The luck of the draw settled me into a dormitory with Julie, Pam, and Levon, the 3 girls who made my life worth living again. We lived in a tiny cinder-block apartment where all my strange eating patterns and exercising neurosis were right out in the open. I know they must have thought I looked strange with my sallow complexion, bruises, thinning hair, and jutting hips and collarbones. But when I see pictures of myself at 18, I'm horrified at how terrible I looked. But they weren't. They didn't treat me like a person with a problem. There were no lectures, no force feeding, no gossiping, no browbeating. I almost didn't know what to do. Almost immediately, I felt like one of them, except that I didn't eat. We attended classes together, found jobs, jogged in the evenings, watched television, and hung out on Saturdays. My anorexia, for once, was not the central topic. Instead, we spent long nights discussing our families, our ambitions, and our uncertainties. I was absolutely amazed by our similarities. For the first time in literally years, I felt understood. I felt like someone had taken the time to understand me as a person instead of always trying to fix my problem first. To these three girls, I wasn't an anorexic needing treatment. I was just the fourth girl. As my sense of belonging grew, I began to watch them. They were happy, attractive, smart, and occasionally they ate cookie dough right out of the bowl. If I had so much in common with them, why couldn't I eat 3 meals a day too? Pam, Julie, and Levon never told me how to heal myself. They showed me every day, and they really worked to understand me before trying to cure me. By the end of my first semester in college, they were setting a place for me at dinner, and I felt welcome. Think of the influence these three girls had on the fourth girl because they tried to understand her instead of judging her. Isn't it interesting that once she felt understood and not judged, she immediately dropped her defenses and was open to their influence? Contrast that with what might have happened had her roommates turned preachy on her. Have you ever heard the saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? It's so true. Think about a situation when someone didn't take the time to understand or listen to you. Were you open to what they had to say? While playing college football, I developed some severe arm pain in my bicep for a time. It was a complex condition, and I had tried a number of techniques to fix it: ice, heat, massage, lifting weights, and anti-inflammatory pills, but nothing worked. So I went to see one of our more seasoned athletic trainers for help. Before I had described my conditions, however, he said to me, "I've seen this thing before. This is what you need to do." I tried to explain more, but he was already convinced he knew the problem. I felt like saying, "Wait a minute, hear me out, Doc. I don't think you understand." As you might have guessed, his techniques actually made my arm hurt worse. He never listened, and I never felt understood. I lost confidence in his advice and avoided him at all costs whenever I had an injury. I had no faith in his prescriptions because he never diagnosed the problem. I didn't care how much he knew because he hadn't shown me that he cared. You can show you care by simply taking time to listen without judging and without giving advice. This short poem captures how badly people just want to be listened to. People listen. When I ask you to listen to me and you start giving me advice, you have not done what I ask. When I ask you to listen to me and you begin to tell me why I shouldn't feel that way, you're trampling on my feelings. When I ask you to listen to me and you feel you have to do something to solve my problem, you failed me. Strange as that may seem. Listen. All I ask is that you listen. Don't talk or do, just hear me. 5 poor listening styles. To understand someone, you must listen to them. Surprise! The problem is that most of us don't know how to listen. Imagine this. You're trying to decide what classes to take next year. You open up your class schedule and look at what's available. Let's see. Geometry, creative writing, beginning speech, English literature, listening. Wait a minute, listening? A class on listening? Is this a joke? This would be a weird surprise, wouldn't it? But it really shouldn't be, because listening is one of the 4 primary forms of communication, along with reading, writing, and speaking. And if you think about it, since birth you've been taking classes on how to read, write, and speak better. But when have you ever taken a class on how to listen better? When people talk, we seldom listen because we're usually too busy preparing a response, judging, or filtering their words through our own paradigms. It's so typical of us to use one of these 5 poor listening styles. The 5 poor listening styles: spacing out, pretend listening, selective listening, word listening, and self-centered listening. Spacing out. Spacing out is when someone is talking to us, but we ignore them because our mind is wandering off in another galaxy. They may have something very important to say, but we're caught up in our own thoughts. We all zone out from time to time, but do it too much and you'll get the reputation for being out of it. Pretend listening is more common. We still aren't paying much attention to the other person, but at least we pretend we are by making insightful comments at key junctures, such as, yeah, cool, or throwing in an LOL here and there when you're chatting online. The speaker will usually get the hint and will feel that he or she is not important enough to be heard. Selective listening. Selective listening is where we pay attention only to one part of the conversation that interests us. For example, your friend may be trying to tell you how it feels to be in the shadow of his talented brother in the Army. All you hear is the word Army and say, "Oh yeah, the Army. I've been thinking about it a lot lately." Since you'll always talk about what you want to talk about instead of what the other person wants to talk about, chances are you'll never develop lasting friendships. Word listening. Word listening occurs when we actually pay attention to what someone is saying, but we listen only to the words, not to the body language, the feelings, or the true meaning behind the words. As a result, we miss out on what's really being said. Your friend Kim might say to you, "What do you think of Ronaldo?" You might reply, "I think he's pretty cool." But if you had been more sensitive and listened to her body language and tone of voice, you would have heard what she was really saying. "Do you think Ronaldo likes me?" If you focus on words only, you'll seldom be in touch with the deeper emotions of people's hearts. Self-centered listening happens when we see everything from our own point of view. Instead of standing in another's shoes, we want them to stand in ours. This is where sentences like, "Oh, I know exactly how you feel" come from. We don't know exactly how they feel. We know exactly how we feel. And we assume they feel the same way we do, like the salesman who thinks that you should buy the newest phone so he can make a buck. Self-centered listening is often a game of one-upmanship, where we try to one-up each other as if conversations were a competition. "You think your day was bad? That's nothing. You should hear what happened to me." When we listen from our point of view, we usually reply in one of three ways, all of which make the other person immediately close up. We judge, we advise, and we probe. Let's take a look at each. Judging. Sometimes as we listen to others, we make judgments in the back of our minds about them and what they're saying. If you're busy judging, you're not really listening, are you? People don't want to be judged, they want to be heard. In the conversation below, notice how little listening and how much judging is going on in the mind of the listener. The listener's judgments are enclosed in parentheses. Peter, I had literally the best time with Catherine last night. Carl, oh, sweet. Thinking, Catherine, why would someone want to go out with her? Peter, I had no idea how hilarious and awesome she is. Carl, oh yeah? Thinking, here you go again. You think every girl who gives you the time of day is great. Peter, yeah, man, I'm thinking about asking her to prom. Carl, I thought you were going to ask Jessica. Thinking, are you crazy? Jessica's way cuter than Catherine. Peter, I was, but now I think I'm really into Catherine. Carl, well, ask her out then. Thinking, you'll obviously change your mind tomorrow. Carl was so busy judging that he didn't hear a word Peter was saying and missed out on an opportunity to make a deposit into Peter's RBA. Advising. This is when we give advice drawn from our own experience. This is when I was your age speech you often get from your elders. A sister who needs a listening ear says to her brother, I hate our new school. Ever since we moved, I'm like the biggest outcast. I wish I could find some new friends already. Instead of listening to understand, the brother reflects on his own life and says, no, you need to start meeting new people and getting involved in sports and clubs like I did. Little sister didn't want any advice from a well-intentioned brother, no matter how good it was. She wanted to be listened to, for heaven's sake. Once she felt understood, only then would she be open to his advice. Big Brother blew a big chance for a big deposit.